Crafting a new fragrance involves a delicate art. It's like making a perfect cocktail. The basic ingredients of perfume consist of essential oils, oils derived from aromatic plants, fruits, and flowers that are diluted with alcohol. These substances are incredibly alcoholic. Perfumes are also tested as the blend evolves and matures. In the old days, perfumes contained substances like beaver glands and sperm whale secretions. Nowadays, everything is a bit more delicate. Lavender essence is one of the main ingredients in perfumes. For centuries, this incredible place in Provence, France has produced half of all the lavender in the world. The leaves and striking blue petals of this aromatic flowering shrub are used to make lavender essential oil, an ingredient in many health and beauty products. The fields are covered with lavender, forming a rolling purple sea of fragrance. While it may smell delightful, harvesting it is no easy task. Weeds like to grow at the base of lavender plants, siphoning off important water and nutrients from the soil. So between May and September, removing those weeds is a very important part. This machine lifts the lavender stems, then shoots hot steam at the weeds around the base. To determine the right time for harvest, the producer observes the quantity and color of the flowers, which should be bluish-purple, about to turn brownish-gray. The producer also crushes a few petals to see how much oil comes out. Lavender begins to bloom in its second year. The harvest time on this farm is at the peak of the first bloom. There is a second blooming later, but the problem is that the harvest only takes place over a period of 6 weeks, and the flowers must be cut early in the morning when they are most open and full of oil. The best way to do this is with a giant harvester. First, it straightens the lavender bushes, then oscillating blades cleanly cut the stems. This harvester is specially designed to cut lavender without any damage. It lifts the straight stem and then cuts it close to the base. The cut stems fall onto a conveyor belt that moves them to a tray, and then a conveyor sends them to the accompanying truck. This pile of stems smells great, but to turn it into an essence that can be bottled requires expertise. When the trailer is full, it takes the load to the distillery. Just like making homemade alcohol from grain, pure lavender must be distilled to extract the best from it. The operators start the distillation by placing 5 tons of stems in a huge steel pot. Workers load the lavender into a still, a large stainless steel container typically used to produce liquors. They pack as much lavender as possible into the still to avoid the formation of air pockets. The less air, the higher the oil yield. Once the still is filled to its compacted capacity, they seal it tightly and ignite an oil boiler. The boiler heats the water to turn it into steam, which is then injected into the bottom of the still at very low pressure. Over about 15 minutes, the steam slowly rises to the top of the still, heating the lavender along the way. They continue with the steam for about half an hour more. This process bursts the glands located mainly in the petals, releasing the oil. Lavender releases oil that mixes with the steam. The steam is then collected in a large condensation pipe. Then, the aromatic steam is cooled inside another vat and turned back into liquid. To collect that extracted oil, they introduce cold water into an aluminum tube that runs through the still. When the hot steam hits that cold tube, it condenses, turning back into water. Lavender oil is lighter than water, so it rises to the surface and is gradually extracted. It takes 5 tons of fresh flowers to produce just 50 liters of oil. Lavender oil begins its life like homemade liquor, but to make the best perfume, it has to mature like a fine malt whiskey. So it will stay in these barrels for several months until it is ready. The lavender oil will be blended with 5,000 other scented oils in the laboratory. For the blending process, there are infinite possible combinations. Humans have about 10 square centimeters of scent receptors in their noses. A single perfume can contain up to 50 different ingredients. That's why strong alcohol is added to make a perfume that really catches attention. That's why the fragrance should be applied to pulse points, like the wrist and neck. These are where blood vessels are closest to the skin, emitting more heat and acting like mini fragrance pumps. Among all this high-tech machinery, perfumers are experts in fragrance creation. These artists spend years training their sense of smell and can identify hundreds or even thousands of different scents. Samples are applied in testers, and the recipe is adjusted as necessary. The recipe is sent to another perfume distillery for mass production. The distillery facilities cover an area of over 20,000 square meters, and the raw materials can cost up to $20,000 per kilogram. Therefore, the manufacturer has to ensure they are authentic and of top quality. The materials are checked using gas chromatography. The substance is vaporized in the machine and then passed through a liquid, weighing all the components to create a concentrate. The concentrate is diluted with alcohol, left to mature, and once the aromas have penetrated the liquid, it is cooled and filtered to obtain a pure, clear, and intense perfume. The final product is measured with a specific volume in milliliters. Everything is weighed in grams, as the manufacturer needs to know what weight of perfume will provide the required volume. The density of the perfume can be calculated from the weight to the volume of water when filling the bottles. Sodium carbonate and limestone. The materials are mixed and heated to high temperatures in furnaces, melting to form a viscous mass. The hot glass mass is poured into molds designed specifically to create the desired shape of the bottle. Once molded, the glass is slowly cooled to prevent it from breaking due to sudden temperature changes. Some bottles may undergo an additional tempering process, which involves controlled cooling to increase their strength. The cooled bottles undergo cutting and polishing processes to remove sharp edges. They are decorated according to the perfume manufacturer's design and sent for filling with the fragrance. But the men's blend is even stronger. Men's fragrance can contain up to 95% alcohol. The bottle is then filled with the spray nozzle. Each bottle is batch-coded to provide traceability in case of future issues. In this factory, everything is done by hand. The perfumes they create are specialized products for high-end markets. If you want to know how wine is made, watch the video on your screen, and please like the video if you enjoyed it and share it with someone who might be interested.